and welcome to Charts and Hearts. I'm Sarah, and she's Lindsay.
And together we're working our way through an epic list of rom-coms in order to find and categorize tropes in the hopes of creating the nerdiest spreadsheet podcasts have ever seen.
And today, it doesn't really fit with Star Wars, but it's got Natalie Portman in it, and Lindsay'd never seen it, so we're doing 2004's Garden State.
Ooh.
Yep.
So you had seen this before. I hadn't
seen this
it.
many times. Like, I own the DVD, and I was obsessed with the soundtrack in 2004,
like
2005.
most people, I think.
Yes. Yeah, like, it was one of those things that, like, you felt so indie for liking this movie, and then it's not that. Yeah.
No. Well, then the OC came out.
Yeah, exactly.
And used literally every single one of these songs.
Yeah. And, like, did kind of the same thing of, like, broke out a lot of indie stars, but then they become less indie by... Yeah, basically invented the indie pop genre.
Exactly.
Or, like, not invented it, but, like, invented the concept of, like, something is both indie and extremely popular.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there was one of the songs, Orange Sky, which I love. They couldn't put on the soundtrack because it had already been licensed to the OC.
Right. Yeah.
It was very much the same time frame.
Yeah. And kind of the same concept. Yeah.
Yeah. And just, like, even Coldplay is in the OC, which it should not have been. Like, 2004 Coldplay is not indie. Like,
Nope. But, you know, as I was just telling Lindsay, having this soundtrack in my life did revitalize my love for Simon and Garfunkel, and that is never a bad thing.
No.
And I feel like there were other bands that I sort of, like, discovered through, like, sort of like that secondhand kind of thing. I can't remember any of them right now, but, like, yeah, just other music. And also this was really, like, the easiest and only exposure that we had in Canada, especially to, like, American indie music. Like, we had our own stuff, and I discovered that mostly through, like, CBC Radio 3 at, like, around the same time. But, like, in terms of getting exposure until it came on, like, pop radio here, we didn't really have an easy way to, like, have access to stuff like this kind of music until stuff like Garden State and the OC. So
yeah, I remember downloading all of the songs from the OC and making my own mixes. Oh yeah,
so many.
But, like, at that point too, I didn't know who the bands were. I just downloaded the one song that was in the OC. See, like, right? Like, it's not like I downloaded all of the Shins album or whatever.
Yeah. And, like, I would end up doing, like, more stuff, and, like, lots of acts. I guess it wasn't just Simon and Garfunkel too. Like, Nick Drake was, like, had been around for a long time. Iron and Wine had been, like, you know, so there was stuff on here that's on the Garden State soundtrack, at least, that, like, I'd heard of before. But, well, like,
yeah, because Zach Braff wrote the script with the soundtrack. Like, the soundtrack was a part of the script when he
so, like, none of the music was new. Yeah, but it was, like, for some of the older stuff, like the Simon and Garfunkel stuff, like, my parents thought it was hilarious. That I was, like,
of course,
so into it. But like, the same thing happened when Reality Bites came out, which is, like, almost 10 years before this, and the big song in that was My Sharona, and, like, My Sharona was, like, a #1 hit again.
Oh yeah,
and my dad thought that was hysterical.
Yeah.
He's like, it's not a very good song. I was like, I know, but it's so catchy.
Yeah, well, it's the exact same thing that happened with Glee, especially with
totally,
like, when they did old stuff like Fleetwood Mac and Carole King,
Hall & Oates, and no, for sure. So it's just, I don't know, it's like the same thing over and over and over again. But this felt like maybe, like, a more polished version of it, just because it was, like, somebody who was already pretty famous. Natalie Portman was pretty famous by the time she was in this. Like, but it's, other than the soundtrack, it's not very good. I mean, there's some good moments for sure, but
it's definitely, like, I get the point of his journey, but I'm just like, I've seen this journey a million times.
Yeah, in mostly gender reversed on the Hallmark Channel.
Yes.
Yeah, because if, like, a woman actor of, like, Zach Braff's level, like, wanted to get a movie like this made, it wouldn't have.
No.
Like, with this plot, with her playing Zach Braff, and, like,
not
I
at
don't
all.
even know. Yeah, some, like, I can't even imagine who it would be, but like, it never would have gotten made, or if it had gotten made. Oh, I guess one example would be, there's this Katie Holmes movie where she, like, tries to make Thanksgiving dinner for her family and her mom's died or something. And like nobody's seen it. It was like a really small movie, but it was, and she wasn't like the creator or anything of it, but it was just like she was doing this indie movie and like it didn't get bought by Miramax, right? Like
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. But yeah, like the gender swapped of this is just like half of the Hallmark Channel movies, right? I mean, maybe with slightly less tragic backstory and like less good soundtrack, but that's
definitely.
The soundtrack is more of a budget thing than a creative decision for Hallmark Channel movies. Yeah. Lindsay, what were your thoughts?
Well, my first thought was that there was some exciting racism in the beginning. And then there was some horrible use of the R word just continuously throughout the entire movie. And then in the trivia, they were like, they premiered it at an event for disabled people and they were concerned about, like, they felt awkward about it. And I was like, well,
then
maybe you shouldn't have used that word. Like, yeah, it was so much. And I just cringed every single time. And I was like, I really, like, I feel fondly towards Zach Braff. I really enjoyed Scrubs. I really enjoyed the podcast during the pandemic. And now I'm like, really, like, think so much less of you.
Questioning
for
your
doing
judgment.
That.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Like, it felt, but the thing is, it's hard. And like, we had this conversation in our book club about like, that was how people like this talked in 2004.
I know.
Not saying it was good, but that like, it felt real.
Yeah.
And so in 2004, it was very much a case of these people are kind of terrible humans.
Yes.
As a collective group. Like all of the younger
like
characters
all of
in this
them,
movie.
yeah.
Well, and also his dad is like a demonic human being. Yeah,
well, it was
like,
the power of the ring turned him demonic.
Yeah, exactly. Which I didn't realize until this watching of the movie.
No, yeah, I was like staring at him and was like,
Ian Holm.
I'm pretty sure this is Ian Holm. Just like staring at him the entire time. I'm like, yep, no, this is Ian Holm.
Yeah, so if you haven't seen it for a long time, like I did not, I remembered that he, so his mom dies and he goes home. And the reason his mom died is because she was a paraplegic and she drowned in the bathtub, which like, where was his dad? And the reason she was a paraplegic was because when he was like 9, he got angry with his mom and shoved her and she tripped on like the open dishwasher and broke her neck, which is like a horrible thing for a 9-year-old to go through.
Horrible.
But his dad, his dad's a psychiatrist, and instead of like getting him therapy, just puts him on lots of like anti-anger drugs.
Yeah.
And then like wonders why his kid is estranged from him for the next 15 years. Like,
yeah, and like they keep talking about like they sent him to boarding school at 16 and he hasn't been home since. I'm like, but doesn't Christmas exist? Like it was.
Well, they were Jewish, so
that's true, but still, Christmas break exists. Just so he just stayed home, and like all summers, it seems extreme and like a weird plot hole.
Yeah, maybe he like went to. Maybe there was like summer programs or camps or whatever. Yeah. Especially because if it was like a boarding school for like troubled youth. Like,
that's true.
Yeah. So then he goes off and is like an actor in LA, and then he comes home for his funeral, and then instead of spending any time with his family at all, he like reconnects with some stoner kids from high school and goes on adventures and meets Natalie Portman, the manic pixiest of Manic Pixie Dream Girls.
Holy shit! Well, until we get to Elizabethtown, which is where the tracking started. Speaking of indie pop music soundtracks of a sad boy finding himself with a Manic Pixie Dream Girl. Holy shit.
I know, it's basically the same movie, right?
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it was just, there's a lot of weird plot holes and like weird editing issues and stuff.
I don't know if it was issues. I think a lot of it was intentional, like,
or
like done to cover up that they didn't have the shots because it was made on a low budget and then it was bought by Miramax and then distributed after it was made, like with a pretty high budget.
But anyway, so like having seen this now 20 years later and as an adult who is not a 26-year-old going through my feelings with indie pop music,
exactly,
I did all of that with the OC. Like I got through it all. Well, all my 20-ish feelings.
20-ish feelings. We still have the late 30s, early 40s feelings.
Like, I still lay on the couch today watching 4 hours of Daredevil, but that's a whole other problem.
Yeah.
But
No,
yeah,
exactly.
so like watching it now and like my 20-ish-year-old feelings aren't present. I'm just like, what is this movie?
Well, and then I was like, what's the age difference between Zach Braff and
I
Natalie
know.
Portman? Is it sketchy? It's not actually that bad. It's only like 5 years.
Well, Natalie Portman is small and looks.
Yeah.
And that's a whole...
So I think they were both playing younger.
I think so.
Because she's my age and he's like 5 years older.
Yeah.
When I looked it up. So like they're basically like 75 and 81 or something like that. 70 something and 81. So it wasn't like scandalous. And then, I think they were both playing a little bit younger.
Yep.
But yeah.
Well, yeah,
but
like she was in that
she plays,
bar, so she was obviously old enough to be in a bar.
Yeah. It was a small town.
I don't know. When you
bar.
look
I don't
at
think they ID'd.
person like that, you would ID them all the time.
You would assume so. Yeah. 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 So, but it wasn't horrendous. But yeah, they were both playing younger, and also she was meant to be playing like, I don't know. It's like they don't really do a very good job, and I think it's good that they don't like call out like other than maybe she has epilepsy, but like she definitely has a personality that like causes her to sort of be innocent and young, but then also like come up and like say she's very blunt.
She's very blunt. But that's like she has a quirky mom and a weird family, and she is like a homebody because she has epilepsy, even though she drinks constantly.
Yeah.
And like all of this stuff, so she's like has delayed, not actual delayed maturation, but like delayed lifestyleness,
adulting.
Delayed adulting because of her problems, and then also she's
he
just
has like
quirky.
And then he had to grow up really fast, but then also didn't because he was just
didn't
drugged
really
by his
have
dad.
experiences.
Yeah, so he's just like has been sort of floating through his life. Yeah, so like they're a weird mix in general, but there are some like really sweet, cute moments, like when they all try to go swimming and they realize like he didn't know how to swim, and I think that's partly because even before his mom was a paraplegic, his mom clearly suffered from like pretty extreme depression, and so that was where a lot of his rage as a child came from, because his mom like he just didn't know how to make his mom happy, and like, why didn't her dad?
Exactly.
Get her some help. Ugh.
It's a bad psychiatrist.
Yeah. Oh, awful. Yeah, so like he didn't know how to swim, and that's this whole thing. And so they
that
had this like sort of
moment is hilarious. Zach Braff pretending not knowing how to swim. That's comedy.
Super funny.
That's
and
very
like,
much JD, like just the physical humor of it. Yeah,
the physical humor. But then afterwards, like they're all sitting around the fire, and then it's just Zach Braff and Natalie Portman, and they have this whole thing of like doing something sort of unique and kooky that nobody's ever done before, or she has this whole thing, and so she ends up like tap dancing for him, like in their bathing suits in front of the fire, and it's just really cute. I don't know, like that moment kind of saves a lot of my enjoyment of the movie.
And I really like the people in the boat. They're very nice.
The boat people. I like that whole storyline.
I like that storyline of the abyss, and the screaming is good because then you're at that point where you're like, this is like he's waking up. Then the fact that literally they hug each other, and she just has to stand there being hugged with her neck in a horrible angle, face away from the camera, while he has a pan-in shot of his face for like 2 minutes. I was like, I hope they had a stand-in for her.
Right.
It's literally like telegraphing you were not important except to be there to support this man.
Yeah, but then it's like, when you really think about it, like she's just in the same room as him while he's like learning to feel his feelings, and he's learning to feel his feelings not anything to do with her, but because he's coming off the over medicated state that he's been in.
She's there, and
she's there and
quirky enough to catch his notice when he was in his medicated state,
and like pushed through and like like made him be her friend.
And then they get to the airport and she's sobbing, like out of control sobbing, more crying than she did when her husband turned into Darth Vader and she was pregnant with twins. Like, the most I've ever seen Natalie Portman cry. And I'm like, you've known him for 4 days. Like,
I know.
Chill yourself out.
Yeah. I mean, he had at that point kind of reverted back to his past self a little bit of like, he was being very like
closed
placating
off.
and like totally talking down to her. And I was like, oh God, it's awful. So like, I think it basically, he started to become a different person in addition to her being left. Like, yeah, it was like, oh, you're leaving and you're not actually going to come back, even though you're like placating me so that you don't have to feel your feelings. Yeah, no, it was, and then I was like, does it end here? Because I did not remember the plot. And then he comes back and like somehow they'll magically make it work. But I'm like, you have an apartment and like a life and like a job that you hate, but still, like, yeah, you might want to like, like all you brought is like a tiny suitcase. Like, yeah,
like you have to go back eventually, and you just lost all that money of that plane because you went on. Like they
he was sitting on the plane.
He was on the plane, so it doesn't count as a canceled flight. Yeah,
no, yeah, it was very dramatic. But as much as it's like not really a rom-com because it's like too indie to be a rom-com, it does have a lot of rom-com tropes.
Yeah, the biggest one that we just talked about. Manic Pixie Dream Girl, out of control. She's so weird and quirky, and her family's weird and quirky, and she ice skates and tap dances and does weird things and just says weird things, and she's just there to make you feel special. Yeah. She's so quirky and unique, but she likes you, so therefore you must be quirky and unique and special. Yeah. And she will literally go just hang around you the entire day.
Yeah.
She has nothing better to do in her life, including go to her job.
A lot of it could have been a puppy dog.
Yes.
And I feel bad for saying that for Natalie Portman, because like when she does get to do stuff, she is really good.
Yeah.
Like the scene on top of the crane when they all scream, I think is really good until it's like the
hugging
close up of his face. But yeah, like the stuff she gets to do is really good, but it's just not a very interesting character.
No.
Like, yep. Yeah, could have been a puppy dog for a lot of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but getting off the plane, or like the dramatic run to reveal your feelings. Yep. Got it. Check.
And then because hand in hand with that is the end shot kissing in the airport. Yep. Well, everybody just goes about their business around them.
And because this movie was so low budget, they didn't actually close any of the airports. So all these people were just at the airport.
Actual people. Yep.
Yeah. Sad protagonist saved by a girl, which is kind of like the definition of Manic Pixie
Dream Girl.
Girl. Yeah, but he's extra sad. Yeah. And then the plot of all Hallmark movies going back to your hometown, and then shenanigans ensue, and then falling in love.
Yep. And finding yourself.
Yeah. Well, you can't have one without the other, Lindsay.
Oh, it's true. Oh, silly of me.
Scandalous.
Not in 2004.
Nope, and not in the male gaze.
Hallmark. No, also
or
true.
the Hallmark movies.
Both. Yeah. Speaking of male gaze, guess what this fails extremely?
Oh, but the Bechdel test? Yep. So yeah, there's Sam, who's Natalie Portman's character. There's his aunt, who gives the eulogy and makes him wear a shirt that matches the wallpaper.
Wait, but guess fabric wallpaper? I don't really get it, but sure.
Yeah, it's a visual joke, I guess. Yep. And there's
the unidentified floozies at the party.
Oh, yeah, there's random nameless floozies. There's like receptionists and blah blah blah.
Yeah,
and then there's the wife. Oh yeah, and there's the wife of
boat guy.
The guy in the boat. Yeah. The people there's like people who live in the abandoned boat to protect the ravine or whatever.
Yeah, and the best friend's mom is Jean Smart, who's always awesome.
She's so good.
Left with Jim Parsons.
I know.
He was a knight.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, the two of them, like, Jim Parsons is my other favorite part of this movie, because it's just bonkers. Yeah, and like Jean Smart, who now I extra adore because, what is her show that's so good?
Hacks.
Oh my god. Yeah.
But so
but
like,
none of them talk to each other.
No, and if they do, it's like the receptionist telling Sam
or like Sam talks to her mom about the hamster and stuff.
Yeah, but like nothing.
Yeah. Oh, and the guy who plays her like adopted brother is one of the main guys in the new Kerry Russell show, The Diplomat.
Oh.
Yeah.
I thought it was Cheaty for a second, but it was just the shirt just and the glasses.
Yeah.
I'm always looking for Cheaty in my life.
Yeah, no, I was like, it's not Cheaty, but who is it? It's somebody that I know now, and I was right.
Yeah.
Okay, let's make a sad indie pie.
Oh my god.
It's much cooler than mine.
It was so close to being like just 100% melodic indie music.
Yeah. Okay. Let's give it 50% melodic indie music from the
sounds
2000s. Yeah. And then another 25% with a similar flavor, but specifically songs by the Shins. Because there's like all the songs by the Shins are
What is it? Like, because also I was thinking when she first is like, it's the Shins and hands him his headphones. I'm pretty sure that's the exact same scene from 500 Days of Summer, which is also
Basically.
a movie that is the exact same plot as this movie, except Joseph Gordon-Levitt dances in it, so therefore it's better.
It's marginally better, but not a lot.
Not a lot.
I think it's worse than this, actually.
Manic Pixie Dream Girlness? Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Songs by the Shins, 25%, because they have like their own vibe in this.
Yeah.
Long Awkward Stairs, 20?
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking.
Yeah.
Which leaves us with 5 for Dead Hamsters.
Dead hamsters. There's many more than 5 dead hamsters, but it makes up 5% of our pie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Lindsay, what's next for them?
Oh, nothing. Just like, first of all, logistics in general. Second of all, and like he has no job and all of this stuff. And he's still coming off of his drugs and doesn't know what his life is going to be like. He obviously is going to have depression plus other things, probably anxiety. And he's going to have to deal with all of that while he lives with his dad. Like, it's bad. All of his friends are stoners.
Which goes really great with like trying to figure out your
life,
your medication also.
And your
like,
medication. And
marijuana
also
doesn't go well with a lot of that.
And also trying to have a relationship with somebody. Like, it's just...
No, and like I could see them like staying together for a while and then realizing like, oh wait, we actually have nothing real or like nothing still in common. Like it was, and I don't think that makes it a failure. It just it wasn't meant to be a long-term relationship.
No, I don't think it. I think the tears that she was feeling were again over dramatic, like over over dramatic, but also over like too much for the relationship level that they are at. Of not even just the 4 days, but like you guys really aren't that close. Yeah, you've like spent a lot of time together,
but at like in a weird emotional space.
Yes, and you also haven't really talked to each other very much.
Exactly. Yeah,
and also never spent like a normal day where you go to work and like
they've just had like funerals and crazy adventures.
Yeah,
it's like Speed.
Yes. But they call it out in Speed, which is why it's a rom-com, and I'm going to put it on the list.
I'm pretty sure it's already on the list.
I'm pretty sure we'd put it on the list.
Okay, anyways, what's next for us?
Dance! Dance!
Yeah.
Yes, so in 2 weeks, we will be back with Center Stage.
Oh, so fun.
Never, not a single problem in that movie.
Nope. Zero. Not at all. I mean, you can love it, and I can have problems.
I've already spent a lot of my life thinking about what I'm going to talk about.
There's a whole song about that. Problematic fave. Yeah.
And then also, after that, we'll be doing Shall We Dance? And for Patreon, we'll be doing Save the Last Dance.
Yay! Yeah, anyways. That brings us to the end of this episode. Don't forget that you can rate or review us wherever you get your podcasts. And you can find us on social media. We're at Charts and Hearts Podcast on Instagram and Facebook, and at Charts and Hearts on Twitter.
Or you can head to our website, chartsandhearts.com, where you can submit your suggestions for rom-coms and tropes for us to add to the list. And you can check out our Patreon at Charts and Hearts Club. We had a great time talking about episode 2, Attack of the Clones.
Episode 2, yes.
And... I think that you would really enjoy that episode. Also, it's only 20 minutes, so you don't have to like hear about midichlorians or Star Wars politics.
Yeah, we didn't really talk about any Star Wars. Just the rom-com parts.
Just the rom-com parts.
We know our place in the podcast universe. Yeah, and don't forget to let us know what your thoughts on this movie. And in the meantime, if you can't laugh at yourself, life is going to seem a whole lot longer than you'd like.
Bye.